and welcome back to Motorland Aragón in Spain. Classic 5.1 kilometre long layout. Not too far away from the historical town of Alcañiz, the wonderful part of the world, a historical part of the world. Racing has been going on in this part of the world for many years, since 1963, would you believe it or not. Through the streets of Alcañiz, 15 laps coming up for the Junior GP class, the only race of the day for the Junior GP class here in Aragon, the penultimate round of the season. And then we get ready for 2 more races in Valencia in a few weeks' time. There's the famous Motorland Aragón wall, of course, and beautiful sunny blue skies. Greetings here on race day here in northern Spain. And of course, we already have the title wrapped up in the Junior GP paddock, because Jose Antonio Rueda, the dominant force in 2022, didn't win last time out, but he didn't need to, because he picked up the title with a second place finish over in Misano. It has been an utterly dominant year for the young Spaniards. 90 points clear of his nearest competitor, David Salvador, in the title chase with 3 races to go. So it is done and dusted in terms of the title chase. And this is what happened then at the San Marino Grand Prix a few weeks ago. David Salvador started on pole position, and Angel Piqueras making a fast start, and Rueda knew what he had to do. That was Xabi Turatuzzi in the background there, suffering a crash on the exit of turn 2 at the Misano World Circuit. Marco Simoncelli, but as we've seen so often this year, in 2022, Rueda picked his way to the front in the early exchanges. That's Filippo Farioli making his way towards the front as well. Angel Piqueras running right there. He would eventually get a long lap penalty for exceeding track limits. And there he is, taking a long lap penalty. We thought that that would be podium chance over, but not to be. Filippo Farioli crossed the line in P1 to take his first race victory of the season, but Saturday over in Misano a few weeks ago belonged to Jose Antonio Rueda. He's only finished off the podium once this year, and that second place over in Misano handed him the 2022 Junior GP title with 3 races to spare. Liam, it's been an absolutely fantastic year, hasn't it, for the number 99. Really stamped his authority on this championship, and as we come into Aragon, he can go out and enjoy himself ahead of moving into the Moto3 World Championship, of course, in 2023.
Yes, he's been an utterly dominant force so far in 2022 as Jose Antonio Rueda. From start to finish, he's been utterly impeccable, and as we got confirmed, he will be moving up to the Moto3 World Championship in 2023, which is, well, something that we did expect and something that is well deserved, because, well, we cannot expect anything less. But this is how it all played out in qualifying before the race action gets underway here today.
Yeah, first qualifying went well. First stint, we just go out to make the good feeling. Was not too bad. The lap was good. Turn 1, I make a little mistake, but I managed to recover that. And then yeah, finally get a good decent slipstream on the straight, and yeah, make the good time. Second qualifying, we just waited a bit to look what happened. And yeah, and finally we go out again, go behind the group again. Was a good lap again, not bad. I see I was going faster. Only the last sector was something on the bike. I couldn't go fast anymore. But finally, I'm happy with the pole position, and yeah, we'll see you tomorrow.
Colin Vai then, your pole sitter here at Motorland Aragón. A good lap time yesterday in qualifying, his second pole position of the season after Jerez. And what did he do over in Jerez race 1? He went on to win the race. 10th overall in the championship is Colin Vai. There you can see there his results. A bit up and down, a bit inconsistent this year. But yeah, that highlight, of course, the race victory over in Jerez. He's going well, very well indeed, actually, in the Red Bull Rookies. Liam, 3 wins in that class, including right here in Aragon. Finished just off the podium in race 1 and then returned to finish on the top step of the podium, and we were talking at Rueda, and rightly so, because he's had a fantastic year. Rueda leading the Red Bull Rookies Cup as well. But Colin Voigt keeping it close, because it's only 11 points between Rueda. So Colin Voigt hasn't had necessarily the best of years in the junior GP class, the most consistent year, but he's certainly strutting his stuff over in the Red Bull Rookies Cup.
Yeah, it's very weird that the season he's had here in the Junior GP comparison towards the Red Bull Rookies, where he's been outstanding, as you said, 3 wins so far, but only 1 podium and 1 win here in the Junior GP. So it's been a season of 2 halves in 2 different championships for Colin Voigt. But there's still plenty of racing here. There's 1 race here today, 2 in Valencia, so he can end his season on a high. And on a high is a season that Cormac Buchanan will be hoping to end his season on. The young New Zealander, he will be starting from 3rd, his first front row of the year. A great lap in qualifying. He actually topped qualifying practice 2, but since there was a little bit slower than what Vire said in qualifying practice 1, he will be starting 3rd on the grid.
Yeah, an excellent showing yesterday for Cormac Buchanan. Only his third race in Junior GP this year. David Alonso will be starting just ahead of him in 2nd place, of course. David Alonso is another rider who will be seeing on the Moto3 World Championship grid full-time in 2023. He's moving up to, moving up to Moto3, but staying with the Aspar setup. First front row of the season, would you believe it or not, for David Alonso. He came in after a solid rookie year last year. Of course, the 2020 ETC winner came into this year hoping to challenge for the title. It hasn't quite worked out that way, but there's no denying the quality that the young Colombian possesses. And starting from 2nd place, his best qualifying of the season, he'll be hoping to add to his race-winning tally today.
Yeah, he's not had a podium since his race win at Valencia way back in May. I think we were covering that round. It was such a long time ago. It feels like a lifetime ago. So David Alonso will be hoping to repeat the feat of race number 1 in Valencia. He was in podium contention in Portimao. You might remember he was involved in a 3-rider collision on the last lap between himself, Farioli and Harrison Voigt. And unfortunately for David Alonso, he was skittled down the circuit, but thankfully he was okay. So he will be going from the 2nd position on the grid, and then Luca Lunetta further back in 6th spot. He's another rider that's looking for, well, a strong end to the season. His best result so far this year has been 5th spot, the young 16-year-old from Italy.
Certainly has been, yeah. Alonso, just going back to David Alonso for a second, had an issue at the start of the race over in Misano, so couldn't compete in the race over at the San Marino Grand Prix. Yeah, Luca Lunetta starting on the outside of row 2. He has Filippo Farioli, the race winner last time out, at the spearhead of the 2nd row in 4th place. Another name we'll be seeing on the World Championship scene in 2023. He joins Red Bull KTM Tech 3 next year alongside Daniel Holgado, who was the 2021 Junior GP World Champion. Adrian Cruces is lining up in P5, the 2021 European Talent Cup runner-up. He's had a fantastic rookie season as Adrian Cruces. And then we have this man, the reigning champion, Junior GP champion. Look at that there. 5 wins, 8 podiums, and 7th place, understandably, is his worst qualifying of the season. I'm not sure what he was doing yesterday, but no, all joking aside, it's been a phenomenal year for Jose Antonio Rueda, and to say P4 is your lowest finish in any campaign is phenomenal, but when you're finishing as low as P4, and that's the worst position you've finished all year, that's just absolutely sensational, and he really is a star to look out for.
He really is a star on the rise, as you're saying there, Elliot. And the crazy thing is about his lowest grid position of the year here in Aragon. It's actually, incidentally, the round here last year where he took his first ever pole position and his first ever podium 12 months ago. So we do know that he likes the circuit. We do know that he goes very well around here. But for some reason this weekend, maybe he's just checked out a little bit, relaxing a little bit towards the end of the season. But if we were to tell him that the most points scored in a single season in Moto3 and Junior GP were an offer, he might just try a little bit harder. He sits on 198 points. The total that's ever been scored was Fabio Quartararo in 2014. I wonder whatever happened to Fabio Quartararo. He scored 265 points in a single season, and if Jose Antonio Rueda picks up 2 wins and a 2nd place between now and the end of the season, he will beat that tally, which is some going.
Yeah, I do wonder what happened to Fabio Quartararo. We'll have to try and look that up.
Yeah, maybe dig up a few facts on him, see where he's off to now.
Yeah, I do recognise the name. Sure, it will come back to us eventually. But yeah, Fabio Quartararo, 9 wins back in 2014. Rueda can't match that tally, but can, of course, surpass the overall points tally. Yeah, Rueda, of course, moving up into the World Championship next year with Red Bull, KTM, IO, nonetheless, alongside Dennis Onchu. So how exciting is that lineup in 2023? Daniel Charil did qualify in 8th position, and I think he is still there. He is still there, yeah. I'm just getting him mixed up with the junior talent team. Grid penalties. Daniel Charil, the number 32 rider, 2nd top 10 qualifying of the season. Harrison Voigt is alongside him on the 3rd row in 9th placed. Harrison Voigt didn't race in San Marino in the junior GP class, but that's because he was racing on the Moto3 World Championship scene with SICK 58. Finished 23rd, so great experience for the young Australian over in Misano. His best finish of the season so far is a 6th place, so Harrison Voigt will be hoping to challenge for the podium this time around. Just looking at David Salvador, he is 2nd in the overall standings. Still no win yet in his junior GP career, Liam. 7 podiums, but it is his 4th year. We're going to get a quick look at the grid. We'll touch upon that a little bit more in the coming minutes. But this is the grid then for race 1, the only race of today in the junior GP class. It's Colin Vire from David Alonso, Cormac Buchanan, Farioli, Cruces and Lanetta make up row 2, and row 3 is Jose Antonio Rueda, Daniel Charil and Harrison Voigt.
Next up in row number 4 is David Salvador. Your man is 2nd in the championship ahead of Jacob Rolston, and 11th ahead of Tachikon Bouajri, your race winner from round number 1. Lambias in 13th at number 94 ahead of Asman, and further down the grid we have Morosi in row number 7 ahead of Ruda, and Carpi running at row number 7 ahead of Uchimi, who had a bit of a bike issue this morning and warm-up, so fingers crossed they managed to get that bike sorted ahead of the race here today. And Almanza starts next to him. Rosenthaler runs at row number 4 ahead of Torrin Collins and Kanta Hamada, and then we've got some penalties, as Ellie mentioned a little bit earlier on. Arbi Aditama and Shoma Gorby on the number 34 and 42 machines respectively will be starting from the back of the grid, which is a shame for Aditama as he equalled his best qualifying position of the season in 16th. What can he do from the back row of the grid?
It's going to be an intriguing race here in Aragon. Rueda coming from 7th place, row 3. He was lapping alone for a lot of yesterday, wasn't he? Probably focusing on race pace as he has done for much of the season. It's going to be interesting to see if he can come through and fight for the race win. I'm sure he can. I'm sure that's what he's hoping to do. But plenty of riders are hoping to get some wins on the board, some debut wins or adding to their tallies. Obviously 3 races to go in the 2022 campaign. So everyone trying to end their season on a high.
Now, if you're looking out for the number 18, Angel Piqueras, he will not be competing here this weekend. He had a training accident recently, and that's put him out of action. A broken hip is the injury that he has picked up. So we wish Angel Piqueras all the best, and we wish to see him back in racing action as soon as possible.
Yeah, real shame for Angel Piqueras. He's been a real star this year in his rookie campaign. He's 5th in the overall standings, but only 9 points off 2nd place David Salvador. We've got a really intriguing fight for 2nd in the overall standings. Raiders won the title already. There you can see Salvador in 2nd place, Asman in 3rd place, 1 point behind. Farioli, winner last time out, only 3 points off as well. So we've got a really intriguing battle for 2nd place in the overall standings. David Alonso is in 6th place. He's on 73 points, so a bit of a gap to bridge for the number 80, who hasn't been on the podium since that race win back in Valencia. So David Alonso will be hoping to return to the podium from 2nd on the grid as the riders come down the back straight, weaving around, trying to get some much needed heat into the tyres. And we will be shortly underway for 15 laps of action here in the junior GP class. It should be a fascinating watch, as it always is. The Raider is sometimes made it look very, very easy this year, hasn't he? I remember back in Barcelona, his combined winning advantage over the 2 races was well over 20 seconds, which in any form of racing on 2 wheels is a lot of time, but in a Moto3 class, in a Junior GP class especially, that's just sublime, and it just sums up his season, really. He's been utterly dominant, but there's a few riders here this weekend that look like they could beat him.
Yeah, we need to put Rueda in the streets of Alcañiz to give anyone a shot of winning this race here today. But we've maybe given him a bit of hope here today, starting from 7th on the grid. As we pointed out earlier on, his worst qualifying of the year. But let's not expect anything similar here today in the race. We expect him to be in the fight for the win as the Junior GP riders get set for 15 laps of action.
We're all set then to get underway here in Motorland Aragón. The red lights appear on your screen and then they are off, and we are away for the only race of the day in the Junior GP. It looks like a good start from pole position for the number 95 of Colin Voigt. Filippo Farioli getting away well from the second row of the grid. He's up the inside of Cormac Buchanan, the number 14, but he gives it straight back to Buchanan, so he holds station. Does the number 14 rider, David Alonso, getting a good start, the start he would have wanted, holding into P2. Just looking out for where Jose Antonio Rueda is. He's not made the, well, he has made a good start. He's up into P5 is the number 99, and that's a good start as well from one of the junior talent team riders. So a good getaway there from the top 4 on the grid.
You have someone of the Team Australia Galicia boys off the track there. It might have been Yambias, the number 93, coming through turn number 3. Off the track, rejoined. He's in 13th place at the moment, but a great start by Daniel Charil, the number 32 rider, from 8th on the grid. He got a launch into 5th, but Jose Antonio Rueda through turn number 2 managed to pick up that place once again. So Charil, one to look out for. He's been showing great form the whole weekend. The rookie in 8th spot in the grid. He's in 6th place in this race. He's really coming on form as the season progresses.
2 AGR team riders in the top 3 and 2 Aspar team riders in the top 4. But how long for? Because Rueda's got a good run up out of turn 10 over the crest of the hill into turn 11, and Rueda is now up into 4th place from 7th on the grid. So a great opening lap so far for the reigning title winner. Farioli just being shoved down to P5 there. Cormac Buchanan thinking about going up the inside of David Alonso down into turn 14, but thinks better of it. But it's going to be Slipstream City down here then in the back straight. Colin Voigt leading the way, but how long for? David Alonso, the freight train then, all following line astern down the back straight. The number 95 leading so far, but David Alonso pulls out of the slipstream. It looks like he's going to take the race lead here at the end of the opening lap. Rueda looking at the inside of Cormac Buchanan on the number 14. Not quite close enough this time around, but it's going to be David Alonso who leads the way at the end of the opening lap.
This is uncharted territory for Cormac Buchanan. He's never found himself here before. It's only his 3rd race in Junior GP. He's sitting in 3rd spot ahead of the dominant force that has been Rueda. He's not so... Well, he's not ahead of him anymore. Rueda steams up the inside into turn number 1. Farioli looking up the inside of David Salvador. Did he make the move stick? Yes, he did. David Salvador. Oh, a bit of a moment there by Cormac Buchanan out of the seat through turn number 2. That's a very scary moment there. He managed to recollect himself. Just drops back 1 place behind David Alonso. Harrison Voigt is now all over the back of the Kiwi rider. So Harrison Voigt, another great start from 9th spot in the grid. Cormac Buchanan punted out wide by the number 29 on the 658 Squadra Corsa machine. So Voigt up to 5th. Cormac Buchanan dropping places like a stone after that. Huge moment coming out through turn number 2. Yeah, turn to, of course, a right-hander, and the riders won't be on the right-hand side of the tyre since turn 14, so a long, long time for that right-hand side of the tyre to just get a little bit cool. And on the opening few laps, you have got to be a little bit careful going through turn 2. We see so many crashes through cold tyres at turn 2, the right-hander. But luckily for Cormac Buchanan, did stay on, lost a couple of positions, but nothing to worry about too much for Buchanan, so he's just got to get his head down and regain a little bit of composure. David Salvador, the number 38 rider, up into 4th place. Rueda looking menacing here, isn't he? Up into 3rd place. Harrison Voigt making a good start. He is up into 5th place from 9th on the grid, the 658 rider from Australia. But it's Colin Voigt still leading the way then. David Alonso did take the lead on this back straight a lap ago. Will he do the same again? It's going to be all changed throughout this race. 13 and a bit laps to go. Who's going to be leading down into turn 16 and 17 this time around? We can never count out Jose Antonio Rueda from 7th on the grid. He's already up to 3rd. He's going for 2nd, maybe even the lead of this race, as David Alonso sweeps past Colin Voigt, and he has done. Rueda from 7th on the grid, a lap and a bit. He's taken the lead of this race. Did we ever discount the champion of 2022? The number 99 crosses the line to complete lap number 2 ahead of Alonso via Salvador, going for his first win of the season, well, in Junior GP altogether, as Vaya tries to fight back, and Rueda runs a little bit deep. He's going to lose a few positions there. He's dropping all the way back. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions he's lost. There he's back in the 5th spot. Cormac Buchanan couldn't take advantage of the champion's mistake.
A little bit hung out to dry there was Jose Antonio Rueda, led over the line, but as we so often see here in Aragon, the slipstream into turn 1, getting a good run out of the final corner, turn 17, over the brow of the hill.
That's Farioli out wide as well.
Yeah, Farioli really wide there at turn 5. So Farioli then work to do. He has Adrian Cruces just up behind him. Not the best of starts for Cruces from 5th on the grid for the rookie is Federico Lambias. Rueda's teammate sets the fastest lap of the race. But yeah, action aplenty then. Rueda taking the lead very briefly, but then ran wide at turn 1, back down to P5. So work to do all over again for the champion of 2022. And Harrison Voigt is quietly going about his business as Harrison Voigt is up into 4th place.
Yeah, Harrison Voigt's been showing a lot of potential in the last few races. He was in a podium battle in Portimao before. He was unfortunately collected by David Salvador's stricken machine at turn number 1. And as you said earlier on, Elliot, he wasn't taking part in the Junior GP because he was in World Championship duties at Misano and for the SIC 58 Squadra Corsa machine, as the Aspar team, or the AGR team, look on. That's Sam Wilford there in the box looking on, as Colin Vire continues to lead down the back straight on lap number 3. David Salvador building up the speed. Jose Antonio Rueda just behind Harrison Voigt. There's a bit of a gap opening up to Cormac Buchanan, the number 14 and the 58 of Luca Lanetta. Look out for him as well. He always shows great speed later on in the race. David Salvador, how many is that now? That's about 3 in the space of 1 corner up the inside. Tight line for the number 38. 7 podiums he's had in his whole career. Not a win. Can he change that here today?
Yeah, his fate championship hopes evaded last time out in Misano, with Rueda standing on the podium and claiming the title. So for David Salvador, it's all about trying to claim that debut win in the class. He's been here for 4 seasons now as David Salvador. He too has Moto3 World Championship experience. Of course, he replaced John McPhee this year at the Sterogada Husqvarna Max Racing team and made a good account of himself as well. That's Luca Lanetta diving up the inside. A late move there, up the inside of Harrison Voigt. A late move, but a clean move there from Luca Lanetta. But Harrison Voigt gives it straight back, held the inside line through turn 6 and turn 7, this corner here. So good battle in there down the field from Voigt and Lanetta. Farioli incidentally down to P11 at the minute, so he's got work to do if he wants to repeat his feat of winning last time out in Misano.
It's all action all the way down the field. It's given Colin Vaya a bit of a gap at the head of the field. That's up to roughly half a second now, as the others behind him have been squabbling away. Just a little bit of housekeeping I want to bring to your attention. If you're on Britwatch, the number 31 of Eddie O'Shea is not taking part in the race here today. He had a bit of an injury, not the crash he had in the Red Bull Rookies, but a trading crash injury with a groin injury that's put him out of action here this weekend. He can only string 4 or 5 laps together, so unfortunately the Brit is out of action here this weekend, so we hope to have him back at Valencia for the final round of the year.
Here's a replay of the start then. It was a good start from pole position, won it for the number 95 of Colin Vire. David Alonso getting a good start. Farioli 2 from the second row of the grid. Briefly held 3rd place, but Buchanan just held it around the outside, as you can do here in Aragon. Outside of turn 1 means you're on the inside for turn 2, the right-hander. So good stuff there. The riders all making it through the very, very tricky, tight turn 1, all safe and sound. Colin Vire then, what's his lead over the line? It's 0.3 of a second, and that's going to vanish very shortly indeed, of course. 0.3 of a second isn't much in any class, let alone in a Moto3 class. So David Alonso doing a good job there of reeling Colin Vire back in. Rueda back up into 3rd place after dropping down to P5. There's a little bit of a gap on the back of Harrison Voigt to Luca Lanetta. And Farioli isn't really making any charge through the field after that turn 5 mistake a couple of laps ago. So the Aspar Junior team rider, who has hopes of still finishing second in the title chase, of course, needs to get a bit of a hurry on. 10.5 laps to go though. David Alonso runs a little bit wide there at turn 7, but nothing too much to worry about. But Colin Vire is in a good rhythm here. Got his head down, making no mistakes so far. This is good from the number 95.
some great progress further back from the riders that started at the back. RB Adatama, the number 34, who started at the back along with Sean McGorby. He's up to 16th spot, the place he qualified yesterday, so he's on the fringes of the points at the moment. A great result for the young Indonesian. And further back is Sean McGorby, the number 42. He's in 20th place. So both riders showing great pace and good form off the start here today. So fingers crossed they might be able to get some points as the next 10.5 laps play out here. But at the moment, at the head of the field is Colin Vire, who's looking imperious at the moment, impeccable as he continues to lead. He's not been headed at all, or if he has, not for long by any other rider. As soon as he's been headed, he's been taking it right back the lead of this race, and he's just clicking off the laps one by one, ticking it off as the race plays to the midway point.
Yeah, leading down into the last couple of corners is Colin Vire. He's just keeping it steady at the minute, isn't he? He's not having to defend from anyone so far, but as I say, that the leader's been clawed back in down the back straight and through the final couple of corners. I think he's going to have to defend in a few moments' time down in turn 1. That's his team cheering him on, of course. 10 laps to go, plenty of time left for all these riders here, but the gap has been slashed to nothing now. So Colin Vire doing a good job so far, but with David Alonso not coming under any real pressure from Rueda, Salvador and Voigt at this moment in time, Alonso can just get his head down, focus on catching up to Vire as he is doing, and maybe he's going to try and make a move at the near point in the future. Plenty of overtaking opportunities here at Motorland Aragón. There's turn 1, turn 5, they've just been through. Turn 7 here is another popular passing manoeuvre. Down the hill into turn 8, of course, just before the reverse corkscrew. Turn 12 as well. Turn 14, if you're brave enough, you can stick it at the side at turn 15, and then of course the last double apex of turn 16 and 17. So it's a fantastic track, fantastic overtaking opportunities, and yeah, slipstream coming into real effect in these classes.
Cormac Buchanan slipping down the field ever so slightly. He's down into 8th now, so the strong start from the young Kiwi has not played to fruition. As maybe experience from the other riders and lack of experience, because this is only his 3rd race, is really starting to come to a fore now. So this is great experience anyway. He'll learn a lot from this, battling with the top riders in the Junior GP category at the moment. But for now, he's showing that he can't hang with the main men of the championship.
Colin Vire looks like he's got Sector 2 absolutely nailed. He was at least a 10th quicker than anyone else behind him through Sector 2. A couple of attempts quicker than David Alonso in 2nd place. He's also set a ferociously quick Sector 3 as well, but this is where he loses time, of course. He's got no one to slipstream him. He's got to punch a hole in the air, and the riders behind can use that to great effect. Jose Antonio Reda moving up into 2nd place, but he's not going to hold it for long. David Alonso cuts to the inside. We see that all so often, don't we, here through turn 16 and 17. Alonso retaking 2nd place off Jose Antonio Reda with 9 laps to go. Harrison Voigt having a look at the inside of David Salvador. Is he? Yes, yes, a good move there. A classic move down into turn 1 for the number 29 of Harrison Voigt. He's chasing his first podium, but as I say that, Salvador bites straight back.
His top 5 are now breaking away from the 6 just behind. At the back of the screen, you might be able to see the number 32 flash on by. That is Daniel Sharil, the rookie on the Asia Talent Team machine. Great weekend so far by the young Malaysian, so he will be hoping to just get inside the top 10. He's been showing great pace at a track that he does know from other series as well. So Farioli now, he is now starting to get the pace going. He's starting to wind up the wick now. A 58.844 from the Italian. A first-time winner last time out. He's had a bit of a scruffy start to this race, running wide and a numerous amount of corners in the first couple of laps. But now he's collected himself together. He's now pushing on a little bit. But if he gets himself to the front of this group, he will have a bit of a bridge to gap of just over half a second to the group ahead. I say it's half a second or timing screens. It looks a lot bit more than that as the flash through sector number 2. We've got Voigt down. Voigt's crashed out from 5th spot. He was showing so well, so he's going to have to wait another race for that first podium. He throws his hands in despair, head in hand as well. So Harrison Voigt crashed out at turn number 12. We see that so often, Elliot.
Yeah, that's a real shame for Harrison Voigt down at turn 12. Good to see that the Australian is all okay. It is a classic crash, isn't it, down at turn 12. Hopefully get a replay of it, but it looks like he just was a little bit too hard on the brakes, and the front end of that Honda Moto 3 machine just washed away from him. He'll be disappointed. Here we go, then a replay. Watch the number 29 at the back of your screens. He's just going to go out of picture here, and then, unfortunately, appear at the bottom of your screens on the floor. Yeah, just the classic turn 12 front end washout, unfortunately, for Harrison Voigt. He'll have to wait until Valencia to get back on board his machine and hopefully make amends and have a strong end to the season. Back at the front then, Colin Voigt still leading the way as the top 4 now, after Harrison Voigt's crash, have a significant margin over the chasing pack. Federico Lambias on the number 94 machine is in 5th place, 1.5 seconds adrift of the top 4. So the riders behind have got to hope that these start squabbling away, and I'm sure they will do in the closing stages for them to stand any chance of trying to get onto the podium places. Farioli, incidentally, up into 7th place now after setting that fastest lap of the race, but still work to do.
Yeah, 1.2 seconds cover, 4th all the way back to Lambias in 5th. So if Farioli can get to the head of that field, it will be a bit of a bridge to gap to the top 4, who have really broken away now, with Harrison Voigt spinning out of 5th spot a lap ago. There's something flying around there. I'm not sure if that's the butterflies we see here so often, or a little bit of the farming as well. So as we almost get towards 7.5 laps remaining, Colin Voigt has been leading most of this race so far as he swooped into turn number 12, which captured the victim of Harrison Voigt a lap ago. These 4 at the moment have been a class above so far here this weekend. Colin Voigt looking for his 2nd win of the season, as is David Alonso just behind him on the number 80. And we've got, I thought that was a rider off track for a moment there in the background, but just a Marshall retrieving Harrison Voigt. The number 99 there flashes past the champion of 2022. He'll be stepping up into the World Championship. He's chasing his 6th win of the season and chasing his 1st ever win, the number 38 of David Salvador. The man 2nd in the championship as he swooped round the final corner. Another attempt to click off another lap as he come across the start-finish line. We'll keep an eye on the gap back to Lambias in 5th spot. It was at 1.4. The last checkpoint is 1.4 still, as David Alonso takes a brief look up the inside of Colin Voigt into turn number 1, but has to slot back in. It remains stations as you were for now.
Yeah, plenty at stake for the top 4 here. Of course, Rueda already the title winner, but everyone wants to end the season on a high, and of course, everyone's here to try and win the race. 3 of these riders have done so already this year. David Salvador hasn't done. He's had 7 podiums across his junior GP career as David Salvador. He's always up at the sharp end. He was the highest placed returnee this year after the likes of Holgado, Montola, Kelso, David Munoz move up into the Moto3 World Championship. Salvador came in as the highest placed rider, and he's done a good job, 2nd place in the overall standings, but no one has been able to answer the questions of Jose Antonio Rueda this year in 2022. But plenty at stake for these 4 riders. Colin Voigt out to get his 2nd win of the season. David Alonso out to get his 2nd win of the season. Rueda out to just assert his dominance even more so on 2022. And as we mentioned, David Salvador winless so far in his campaign this year and across his campaigns in the junior GP class. We've got yellow flags out at turn 7. Not sure what that's for. We'll try and get confirmation of that shortly, but that's the right-hander as they come out of the 1st sector. It looks like Anil Sharil, as Liam rightly points out on our timing screens, unfortunately, for the junior talent team rider after a good qualifying up inside the top 10. So let's hope that Sharil is all okay.
Yeah, I wonder if he's had a bit of a coming together with Cormac Buchanan, because there's a big gap between Lunetta and Buchanan. As it came onto the back straight there, Buchanan just had a little look over his shoulder, and they were running together in the circuit, so maybe there was a bit of a coming together between the 2 riders there, but massive shame for Daniel Sharil, who's been showing great pace, the rookie, all weekend. Just remember, he's coming back from a nasty leg break a few years ago. He returned to the Asian Talent Cup last year, finished 2nd in the championship there. And that was a massive move from David Alonso there, nearly tagging the back of Colin Voigt. That could have been very nasty. Wow, very lucky to get away with that one. So he sets up, he's lost about a 2nd to the top 3. Now he's going to have to do a lot of work to get back onto the back of the top 3. That is David Salvador in 3rd. So, wow, Elliot, I thought that was going to be curtains for the number 80 of David Alonso there.
Yeah, very, very close down in tow, and a hard braking zone, of course, down there here at Motorland Aragón, and now so much work to do for David Alonso if he wants to get back with the podium fight. It's good news, arguably, for the riders behind, because David Alonso, of course, has great race pace here in Aragón, so they can latch onto the back of David Alonso. We're going to get a replay of it here then. A 2-bike slipstream for David Alonso on the number 80 machine. Brakes a little bit later than the rider's headwind. Just gets a little bit out of shape and, yeah, does well, really, to not tag the back of Colin Vai's machine. Doesn't run too wide. It could have been a lot worse, of course, for David Alonso, but he's lost a good second or so to the chasing pack. He's lost about nearly 2 seconds, in fact. He's 1.8 down on the leads. So yeah, work to do then for David Alonso, who's got his teammate, well, he did have his teammate, Filippo Farrioli, right behind him, but Luca Lanetta is making a menace for himself, the AC Racing team rider. He's up into 5th place. Now
we'll see if David Alonso can find that pace he's shown all weekend to try and claw his way back towards the top 3. But Colin Vai'a has been the man of the weekend in terms of pace, in terms of speed, in terms of just consistency, in terms of lap times as well, because he leads the race and he's setting such a strong pace at the front. It's going to be so difficult for David Alonso to try and bridge that gap back again as David Salvador cuts a tight line to try and repeat the move that he pulled earlier on in the race. David Salvador sort of consolidating his 2nd place in the championship if he stays the way it is with 3rd spot, as Asman, Sarifadin Asman, he's gone sort of missing this weekend, shown no pace all weekend. He's down in 11th, so not really sure what's happened to his turn of form this weekend. He was sitting 3rd in the championship, 1 point behind David Salvador coming into this race, so it's all playing well for David Salvador, the number 38 at the moment, if Asman cannot find any form in any more places to claw his way up the field for the remainder of these 5 laps.
Yeah, Alonso and the chasing pack needs these 3 guys to start squabbling away. 4.5 laps to go. It's going to start getting to the business end of the race. But yeah, Colin Vai'a looking incredibly comfortable out front. Not really allowing the 2 behind him in Rueda and Salvador to get quite close enough. As Rueda takes a good long look over his shoulder, sees a face full of David Salvador behind him, and then sees a nice little gap back to David Alonso. It's 1.4 seconds is the gap from David Salvador's rear wheel to David Alonso's front wheel. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can bridge that gap. This chasing pack in the closing stages. Not long to go though, so work to do for David Alonso, of course, chasing the 2nd podium of the season, aiming to go out on a high ahead of his Moto3 World Championship adventure with Aspar, of course. Farrioli in the same boat, really. He wants to end his season on a high after that early mistake down at turn 5 before joining Tech 3 in Moto3 as well. But he's got Luca Lanetta swarming all over him, hasn't he? Filippo Farrioli. It's going to be a tough job to keep a top 5 position for Filippo Farrioli, number 7, as Colin Vai'a just has always enough of a gap down this back straight. A couple of tenths in hand is just about enough to keep Jose Antonio Rueda and David Salvador at bay heading into the final couple of corners. He's an absolute monster coming onto that back straight, is Colin Vai'a. I don't know what he's doing coming on there. He must have the gearing set up right, but he just seems to pull a couple of bike lengths before they come onto it, and then the other 2 behind him just reel him in. But this is as close as it's been for a number of laps now. The pull of the slipstream, Colin Vai'a in the middle of the circuit. David Salvador just slots in behind him, so he's now up into 2nd spot. Change of 2nd and 3rd. David Salvador means business now. The gap back towards David Alonso remains at 1.4 seconds, so it stays in station. No change at the front as well. So 3.5 laps remaining. Who will it be? Will it be Colin Vai'a picking up his 2nd race win of the season? Now, we remember the last time he picked up pole position, he did win that time as well, back in Jerez. So we know he's got form when he picks up pole position as well, and he's been looking imperious at the head of this field. Right, that we've actually seen numerous of times from Jose Antonio Rueda, the number 99 so far this year. So yeah, he's maybe taking a leaf out of the champions book as the team look on. And a bit of a pass further back. That's Farrioli, looks like he's moved up into 4th spot. Yellow helmet, you see him flash past, he has done. And we've got a crash further back. That's a turn number 2, so that's a quick corner goal there. Yeah, turn 2. Yeah, so unfortunate there for Soma Gorbe. He was back up on his feet though, that's the main thing. Hopefully he is all okay and will be fit to ride over in Valencia in a couple of weeks' time. There's confirmation of looking forward to Soma Gorbe crashing out at turn 2. But yeah, Colin Vai'a then still leading the way, and he clearly likes Aragon, doesn't he? He won here in the Red Bull Rookies Cup a couple of weeks ago when those guys were here alongside the MotoGP World Championship. Rueda there also in the Red Bull Rookies Cup. Those 2 are challenging for that title with just 1 round to go in Valencia. So these guys in Colin Voigt and Jose Antonio Rueda. They've got the final round of this championship to go in Valencia, and then a week later they'll be on Red Bull Rookies Cup duty, battling it out for the title. So there's a little bit more in this than what meets the eye, you think. I think for David Salvador, he's just going to go all out attack. He wants that race win. He'll obviously be happy with the podium, but he'll just be wanting that race win. So I think it's going to be sort of all or nothing for David Salvador at number 38, but there's sort of bragging rights available here between Colin Voigt and Jose Antonio Rueda in terms of that Red Bull Rookies Cup.
Yeah, it's a psychological advantage one can take over the other towards the final rounds of the Red Bull Rookies Cup. A great championship battle that is going on over there. Everything's all wrapped up, unfortunately, over here in Junior GP, but Colin Voigt hasn't had that season that is really respectful of his talents, as we've seen. That's more so over in Red Bull Rookies Cup. But Colin Voigt, who would love nothing more than to get one over on Jose Antonio Rueda before they head to the Red Bull Rookies finale in, well, just over a month's time or so.
Rueda, again, looking behind, and this time doesn't see a face full of Salvador, because you can see him right in front of him, but sees a nice gap of 2 seconds back to Felipe Farioli. They've been battling away in that chasing group, and they've just lost around about half a second in the last couple of laps to the podium battle. So it looks like the podium hopes of the likes of Farioli, Nanetta, Alonso, who made that mistake, of course, down at turn 1. Cruz is in that battle of 2, as is the number 94 Lambias. It looks like their podium hopes are over unless something happens dramatic in this lead group, which we hope it doesn't, of course. But it looks like it's going to be these 3 riders with 2 and a bit laps to go. Colin Voigt leading from David Salvador and Jose Antonio Rueda. They're a little bit closer this time around. It's going to be interesting to see the run out of turn 15 that Colin Voigt gets down here. It's going to all come down to this on the final lap, isn't it? David Salvador looks like he's got a little bit of a good run then from Colin Voigt, but Colin Voigt's machine punching a nice hole in the air for Salvador, but he's got some good pace on that KTM, hasn't he, Colin Voigt, the Dutchman? But it looks like he might relinquish the lead for the first time in quite a while. Does Colin Voigt? Breaks late, but he's going to run slightly wide with Salvador making his way a nice sweeping line, but no, nicely done then from Colin Voigt. Well defended for the number 95 as he crossed the line with 2 laps to go. Lap 2, 2 laps to go, gap 3 riders in this fight. It's all to play for.
We saw a first-time winner here today in the Hawkers European Talent Cup. Can David Salvador become a new first-time race winner here today? He's in second place. He's looking feisty. He's climbing all over the back of Colin Voigt towards the end of the lap. Jose Antonio Rueda, he's not giving up this ghost just yet. He still wants to pick up as many wins as he can, even though the championship is wrapped up. They've got a substantial gap of 1.8 seconds, so that's come down ever so slightly over Farioli in 7th. Look at this battle going on for 4 spots. Lunetta leads the way now, ahead of David Alonso. So David Alonso was suspected he might not be able to recover from that mistake in turn number 1 a few laps ago when nearly ran into the back of Voigt. It was a little bit of a moment there for Rueda. He looked over his shoulder again and it just sort of looked like he missed the apex of the turn number 8 right-hander, but there'll be no issues there for him. He'll be able to claw that advantage back that he's lost as we wind up the wick. A lap and a half remaining. Colin Voigt leads away. David Salvador climbing all over the back. Will there be a move coming? You just have a feeling that he's rehearsing for a final lap attack at turn number 12, don't you, Elliot?
Absolutely. I mentioned a couple of laps ago that it feels like it might be all or nothing for David Salvador. There is no chance that Salvador does not try and make a move on the final lap or in the coming sectors. This group is going to go right down to the wire, but they're not going to stand on the podium, unfortunately. David Alonso, you felt those first couple of laps after making that mistake were crucial, and he's just been swallowed up slightly by this group and hasn't been able to get into a rhythm and try and claw back the disadvantage that he gained. So down into the final couple of corners for the penultimate time. Salvador showing a wheel to Colin Voigt, but once again Colin Voigt tremendous on the brakes down there into turn 16. They swoop around, collects the apex at turn 17, and we are starting then the last lap here in Junior GP, the penultimate round of the season. 2 races to go after this, but just 1 lap remaining here in Aragon. Colin Voigt leading into turn 1. He's led for so long. Will he be leading at the end of the lap?
It's going to feel a little bit cruel if Colin Voigt loses the win in the very last lap of this. He's been leading so brilliantly, so perfectly for the entire race so far, but David Salvador, he means business. He's winding it up. Well, we see a move into turn number 5. He's not close enough just yet, but it's feeling ominous a little bit. Jose Antonio Rueda, your champion, just lurking in 3rd spot there, collecting any bits of the pieces that may be able to shatter from the two riders just in front. There's a bit of a gap opening up between the top two. Salvador climbing all over the back of Colin Via. Can Colin Via pick up a second win of the season, holding off David Salvador? It's going to be a tough ask, but if anyone can do it, Colin Via can. Down towards the reverse corkscrew they go. Rueda claws back up the advantage that he's lost as they swoop through Marquez corner. Only a few more corners to go. Turn number 12 could be the moment that Salvador goes for the move.
Yeah, watch then down into turn 12. It looks like Colin Via's got a fantastic run up the hill. They'll go over the crest of turn 11, now down into turn 12. Not close enough this time around. The last time around for David Salvador in second place. Colin Via's AGR team looking on intensively, of course. Now then, through turn 13, this is turn 14. We've got a little bit of a chicane here. Through turn 13 we go. Now turn 15 and on to the back straight. David Salvador looks like he's close. All into the slipstream now goes David Salvador and Jose Antonio Rueda. Colin Via trying to make himself big, trying to defend the lead onto the last lap. Swoops across to the inside. David Salvador's right next to him. That's a little bit close for comfort. David Salvador then up the inside. Jose Antonio Rueda up the inside. Colin Via late on the brakes through turn 16. Salvador shoves it back up the inside of Jose Antonio Rueda. But it looks like it is going to be the number 95 of Colin Via who wins his second race of the season. Salvador crosses the line in second and Rueda collects P3. What a race from Colin Via. The perfectly executed final lap, defended extremely well there did Colin Via, and he takes his second race win of the year in superb circumstances.
Second pole position of the year, second win, converting it. What a ride. It was imperious, brilliant, perfection from Colin Via on the number 95 AGR team machine. David Salvador, you've got to feel for him a little bit. 8th podium in Moto3 and Junior GP Championship, and still no race win. You feel like it's coming, it could come at Valencia, but Colin Via just held off David Salvador and the champion Jose Antonio Rueda, soaking up the pressure like a sponge. It was brilliant to watch. Second win of the year for Colin Via, the Dutchman. He will be delighted with that.
He absolutely will. And he led for so long, didn't he? Started the race really, really well from pole position, did Colin Via. Had some, well, he had company throughout the race. Only got overtaken a couple of times though, and he just led so strongly. David Salvador in second place there. He looks happy, and so he should be as well. It's actually his best finish of the season for David Salvador, would you believe it or not. Started the year with 3 third places in Estoril and then a couple in Valencia. And he hasn't stood on the podium since race 2 in Valencia, that third place finish. So I said it would be all or nothing for David Salvador once that first win. A podium is a podium, of course, and a return to the podium for the first time in a few months is a welcome return for David Salvador. He's finished 4th in the last 3 races, of course. So yeah, Salvador happy to be back on the podium. And what more can we say about Jose Antonio Rueda? Was there throughout. Of course, wanted that race victory to take his tally up to 6 for the season, but another podium it is for Jose Antonio Rueda. 8th podium now in a row for Rueda. Already the title winner, of course, and just another mark there of the class. He possesses the number 99. 2 more races for these guys left over in Valencia. As Rueda celebrates another podium. He'll be going head-to-head, of course, with Colin Via, like we mentioned in the Red Bull Rookies Cup finale over in Valencia 2, alongside the Grand Prix paddock. Fascinating fight. Beckons there, 11 points between the race winner here, Colin Via, the number 95, and Jose Antonio Rueda, the number 99. Everyone loves a good stand-up wheelie, don't they? Down the back straight. Can we get a kilometre long? Oh, no, not quite for Colin Via. We'll let him off, though. He's probably a little bit tired after that race. But yeah, like Liam said, like we've mentioned plenty of times already, a second win of the season. It's been an inconsistent year in the Junior GP for Colin Via, but everyone is well aware of the talent Colin Via possesses, and that was as good a race as you get in a battle for the race win. Never looked like making a mistake, did he? The number 95 rarely relinquished the lead throughout the race. Yeah, David Salvador, Jose Antonio Rueda for company. David Alonso, incidentally, crossing the line in 4th place. So a good job, a good salvage job from David Alonso after that turn 1 mistake. But yeah, after second pole position of the year, it is a second win of the season. Fantastic way to head to Valencia for the AGR team and Colin Via. We'll be hearing from him shortly down in Parc Fermé with Liam, who's made his way down there from the comms box, just debriefing with his team. Of course, the only race of the day for the Junior GP guys, so we won't be seeing them in action until we are back in Valencia in a couple of weeks' time at the end of the month in October. Hopefully it's not too cold down there for these guys and they can enjoy a nice dry few days at the circuit Ricardo Tormo before the season ends. Salvador will have strengthened his grip in the overall standings in 2nd place. Seyfriedin Asman finished down in P13, who's in 3rd place. So Asman would have lost 3rd place in the overall standings to Filippo Farioli. Farioli incidentally crossed the line in 8th place. So after that early mistake at turn 5, the Misano race winner finished in 8th place, couldn't make a comeback from there. Buchanan finishing down in 9th place. A good result for Cormac Buchanan, as Rueda there gets some hugs and kisses off his family. Another good ride, of course. He'll have wanted the win, but he's already wrapped up the 2022 title, which obviously coming into the year was the #1 goal. 5 wins to his name and another podium to his name as well. That's 9 podiums from a possible 10. A sensational season from Rueda, and what an exciting prospect it is that he's moving into the Red Bull KTM IO ranks in 2023 alongside Dennis Onchu. Colin Via then making his way over shortly to the interview part of Parc Fermé. We'll have the podium ceremony, of course. After that, this is the race-winning overtake. It looks like Colin Via through turn 4, the fast-sweeping left-hander. You just see there at the bottom of your screen, Filippo Farioli making a mistake down there at turn 5. This was the final lap. David Salvador desperately trying to overtake Colin Via, wasn't he? But he then had Jose Antonio Rueda to deal with at the inside. Fortunately for Salvador's sake, he got back up the inside of Rueda to claim his best result of the season, as Colin Via claimed his equal best result of the season. A second race win for the number 95. A classy win as well. Fantastic stuff from the Dutchman. And the celebrations can begin for these guys, of course, because they've not got another race to worry about. We've got Moto2 European Championship action coming up next. And then the final race of the day, the Hawkers European Talent Cup. So do stick around for those 2 races if you can. The title was wrapped up in the Moto2 European Championship by Lukas Tulovic earlier on today. But here is your race winner then, Colin Via. He's down in Parc Fermé, William.
Colin Via, huge congratulations. Your 2nd win of the year. You had to soak up so much pressure. Just tell us how you did it.
Well, yeah, the whole weekend went perfect for me. Already on the Thursday, we felt quite good with the bike, trying to get the laps done, especially on my own a lot. And then the Friday in the morning, I was alone on all the time on my own. Didn't get a really good slipstream, so P4 in the first practice. But then in the second practice, I go again, but then try to get a slipstream just to see where we are for the qualifying. And yeah, put me on P1 already. I was quite happy with this one. Then the qualifying one of the Saturday went also good. Also trying to get laps on my own, and then after again with the group, also get there the good lap again, make the pole. Really happy with this one, and then to the second qualifying on my own again, trying to get the pace, and then this race, yeah, I tried to lead every lap and trying to get the gap because I knew I had the pace for going on the front. And I try to push every lap, and once on my board they say group 3. I think perfect now. I have to just trying to get the lead into the last lap. And the last corner, the second last corner, I tried to slow down a bit, everybody, and yeah, and then getting first into the last corner, and then yeah, I came out first over the line. I'm really happy with this one.
Huge congratulations, and can you explain it to us again in Dutch as well, please?
Ja, goede race. Hele weekend voelde echt heel goed. De donderdag ook al. En toen de vrijdag veel alleen gereden. En de tweede vrije training hebben we dan geprobeerd om een goede ronde te krijgen voor de kwalificatie. Eerste kwalificatie was perfect, voelde me heel goed. De eerste stints waren gewoon even om gevoel te krijgen. Derde stint, nieuwe banden eronder en nou, voor de ronde gaan. Pole gepakt met deze ronde. Ja, tweede kwalificatie proberen om de pace te krijgen. En om te kijken hoe ver we kunnen gaan wanneer we alleen zijn. Dat zet hem op P4 neer, dus nou, dat was redelijk goed voor mezelf. En dan ja, de race gewoon proberen te leiden elke ronde en proberen van iedereen weg te rijden. Kon helaas niet alleen wegkomen, dus, maar helaas maar ja, ik heb wel gewonnen, dus ik ben heel blij met deze. En hopelijk gaan we zo door.
Very well done, Colin. Go and enjoy the celebrations.
Thank you.
His highlights then from the Junior GP action here at Motorland Aragón. Colin Voigt got a good start from pole position. He grabbed the whole shot down into turn one with David Alonso following closely behind. Cormac Buchanan and Filippo Farioli battling away for P3 and P4 in the opening couple of corners. Rueda making a good start from 7th place, his worst qualifying of the season, straight up into the top 5. All line astern, of course, around the opening couple of laps as we retreated to a fascinating podium battle. These was in the open exchanges. Alonso up the inside of Rueda, who ran slightly wide down at turn 1. Colin Voigt there moving into 2nd place, and this was what turned out to be the race-winning move for the number 95. Colin Voigt sweeping through at the inside at turn 4. Holding it into turn 5. You just saw there Farioli losing out at turn 5 there, running wide. He wasn't able to make a comeback from there. Harrison Voigt was up in the lead group in the podium battle, briefly up in 2nd place. David Salvador watching there up the inside, the number 38 rider, as the AGR team cheered on the number 95. But down at turn 12 is where Harrison Voigt's race unfortunately ended with this crash. Took to the front down at turn 12, an easy thing to do, really. We see it all so often, don't we, here at Motorland Aragón? And this is where David Alonso's podium hopes evaded too, down at turn 1, the heavy braking zone for the number 80. Just lost a couple of seconds there to the podium battle, and that was unfortunately his podium chances over. This was the last lap, the last couple of corners. Colin Voigt did brilliantly well to hold on to the race leads. Rueda threatened to go into 2nd place ahead of Salvador, the number 38, but the latter swept on through to claim 2nd, his best result of the season. Colin Voigt claimed the race victory, his 2nd win of the season with Rueda, notching up another podium to his name in an utterly dominant season for the Spaniards. Time for the podium then, here in Junior GP. The AGR team celebrating their 2nd win of the season in the Junior GP class. Rueda used to standing on the podium, isn't he? Not used to standing on the 3rd step, it has to be said, but he is used to coming out onto the podium. David Salvador returns to the podium for the first time since Valencia, a much needed podium for him. He strengthens his position in 2nd in the overall standings as Colin Voigt makes his way into the top step for the first time since Jerez. A couple of trophies to add to the cabinet then for the AGR team, with the Race Winners Trophy and the Team Winners Trophy. I wonder how many more trophies Jose Antonio Rueda will add to his collection. I'm sure plenty more to come for the number 99. David Salvador, his 8th podium in Junior GP. And Colin Voigt gets the trophy he would have been looking to collect ahead of the weekend getting underway. And I think he gets a nice little check as well. We'll get ready for the Dutch national anthem before the fizzy water is sprayed. Congratulations to Colin Voigt on his fantastic victory here at Motorland Aragón. Doesn't fancy spraying the fizzy water. David Salvador is old enough to have the Prosecco dock. I think maybe Voigt just not spraying out of respect for his colleague Victor Steeman, who we send our best wishes to, of course, after his accident yesterday over in the World Supersport 300 Series in Portimao. You can hear the Moto2 bikes in the background, of course. Their race 2 will be getting underway very shortly indeed, and then we've got the Hawkers European Talent Cup race 2 coming up after that. 1 point in it between the top 2 in the title in the Hawkers European Talent Cup, and it's always a great race, isn't it, in that class? So stick around if you can for that one. But here's the final results then. Colin Voigt winning just over 1/10 of a second from Salvador and Rueda. David Alonso leading the way after his early mistake down at turn 1. Lanetta, Cruces, Lambias, Farioli and Buchanan completing your top 9. A fantastic battle for 4th, that was, wasn't it? Rueda closing out top 10. Arbi Aditama in 11th place. Bawazri in 12th. Asman in 13th. Ralston in 14th. And Alberto Ferrandez, his second Junior GP appearance of the season, closed out the point scorers. Philip Ton, Rosenthal and Zurituza closing out the top 20. Noah Detweiler, Collins, Uchumi and Kanta Hamada there, up inside the top 25. Soma Gorbe, Daniel Sharil, Harrison Voigt and Alex Cordon all didn't see the finish line. Harrison Voigt, as we saw, unfortunately crashing out of the podium fights. Here's a reminder then of the championship standings. Rueda, of course, already the title winner with 2 races to spare now. David Salvador strengthens his grip in 2nd place. Farioli moves up into 3rd place with Asman dropping to 4th. Piqueras, unfortunately, didn't see him here this weekend after his training crash and a broken hip. Hopefully he's in Valencia, but I don't think he will be, unfortunately. So a get well soon to Angel Piqueras. David Alonso in 6th place, stays in 6th place in the overall standings. Eddie O'Shea sitting out today's action after a mountain bike injury with his groin is causing him some issues. So unfortunate that for the British rider. You'll see the riders down there in the lower ends of the top 20 and the top 25. Buchanan with his best finish of the season. 7 points on the board for the New Zealander after starting from the front row. There's the other point scorers then in the overall standings. What a race we've just seen though here in Junior GP. The number 95 of Colin Voigt emerging victorious ahead of the final round in Valencia in a couple of weeks' time. We'll see you there for Junior GP action. But next up is Moto2 Race 2 from Aragon.